Bow, ladies and gentlemen, and everything in between. Welcome to your Friday night show. I am your host, Aid Thompson. Cheers. If it's your first time tuning in for this, welcome. You're very welcome here, guys. Grab yourself a stool at the veritable bar. This is very much the metaphorical last orders at the Titanic in our weekly review, our Friday night live review of news, politics, dystopia, and all things awful as we cruise Titanic-esque effortlessly through these tumultuous seas of shitness. Big doff of the cap to the Patreons and the YouTube community backers. Let's see if we got their names up on the screen now. Got two new backers actually this last week. David Ford joined the YouTube community, but also Jonathan, I hope I'm pronouncing this correctly. I'm probably not. Jonathan Danishuk? Is that close? Even close? Is it in the neighborhood of being pronounced correctly? Margaret Abogai has upgraded to certified Aid Thompson level, so she gets herself onto the named and shamed credit list here also. What's up, you beautiful bastards? Hope you're keeping well. Right. What should I go? Should I talk about the Patreon a little bit more? Do I need to do that? Do I need to oversell it? We've got an in-person meetup happening very soon on Saturday the 6th of July in London, in East London, in fact. Saturday 6th of July. And then a couple of days before that, we've got the election night, haven't we? The election night party. Which, if you missed my Twitter or you don't follow like Super Tansky or Marina or Gemma or any of the others, we're having this big election night shindig, which the Patreons all got the link to beforehand. They get first dibs on it, etc. But if there's any tickets going, it's out there in the public now. Go and grab yourself one. It's taking place in Vauxhall in London, Thursday the 4th of July. So that's all good too. We could talk a bit more about the Patreon maybe towards the end, can't we? I don't want to bore you guys with it. I don't want to set out my stuff. Spend the whole, the first 7 minutes of every podcast talking about why you should sign up for the premium version of the podcast. That's not content, is it? He said, spilling his beer all over himself. Right, people. So, what's going on? How are we doing? How are you guys in the live chat tonight? Let's see who's in the house. We've got Alex French checking back in. What's up, Alex? We've got Diz. We've got Richard Marsden. Did something just fly off my goddamn ship, says Richard. I'm not sure what that refers to. Blue Badger's in the house. Mojo Sabian. Tim Ballum. What's going on, guys? Wayne is in the house as well. If you're not familiar with Wayne, I love Wayne. Wayne is possibly my favourite guest on Labour Social, which is on 9 o'clock, right, after this. So I stream from 7:30 to 8:30. And then I have a little bit of time to edit and talk to my Patreons. I jump into the Discord and talk to them. And then I go on Labour Social, and Wayne is on there too. And me and Wayne, God love him, have a bit of bants going. Sometimes I think, when I talk to my brother's wife, she's Bulgarian, and when we talk to her about, or she overhears us talking to our mother and ripping into her and banter and roasting, she doesn't get it. Sometimes I think people from overseas don't kind of get that British humor, but it's all love, or at least it's all love from my side. Maybe Wayne fucking hates me. Maybe this whole time I've been mistaking the sort of ripping and roasting of this is good fun, I like this guy, but actually secretly under the hood he's no, this is, you should absolutely interpret this all at face value, Wade. I despise you. Just, you rub me up the wrong way, sunshine. Billy Kershaw, Neil Moore also in the house. Stuart Chesma, what's going on? Anyway, I suppose let's get into it, shall we? What's happened this week? What's been going on? Have you enjoyed the last week of political campaigning? Have you enjoyed it or have you endured it? Is the question. have we sung or sighed and sobbed at the news, at the state of the country, and indeed the electoral campaign over the last few days? Should we go through it? Should we remind ourselves of the trauma we have just lived through? The week started, guys, on Monday with Rishi Sunak being privately urged to be less nice in the campaign. Your niceness is holding you back, Rish. Yeah, you're too nice, is the advice that he was given. Be more of a C unit, Mr. Sunak, said the Spads and the campaign staff. Which is a bit like, like, he's tetchy, isn't he? He's tetchy, he's an empathy vacuum, he would start convulsing if he's, even in a 20-metre radius of a working class person, like he's fucking Damien near Guildford Cathedral in The Omen. That's him. He diverted funding away from deprived inner-city areas so he could funnel it out to the affluent shires. He defunded schools' maintenance programs that left them collapsing. Could have killed somebody's kid. He demonizes refugees habitually. How can you look at a guy like that and go, do you know what, Rish? Nice guys finish last. You need to cunt it up a bit. Tuesday. What happened Tuesday? Hysteria reigned as Labour's plan to give 16-year-olds the vote irked the same people who normally claim 14-year-olds should be tried as adults. Give them the chair. And, of course, that 15-year-olds who have been trafficked by ISIS, they knew what they were doing. But 16-year-olds, too young. No, poor innocent little creatures at 16, somehow. At 14, you should be tried as an adult. At 15, you knew what you were doing. At 16, memory wiped. Just clean slate, apparently. I mean, it's amazing, isn't it, really? When you think about it. How the party of, and who still pine for, Boris Johnson, who as party leader allowed Conservative MP Imran Khan onto an advisory panel for sexual exploitation, despite them having received a complaint that he himself had molested a schoolboy, right? This is all true, very well documented. It's surprising that they would have such an issue with giving under-18s agency, isn't it? And then when you consider, on top of that, Sunak's push for children to do national service and Labour's rejection of that policy in favour of giving them the vote, affording them more agency, more autonomy over their own existence. I mean, all you can glean, if you take all of that in, right, all you can glean from all of that really is that Labour want to attract teenagers, whereas the Tories seem to want to fuck them. By midweek, the Tory campaign was going so bad. Badder still, in fact, that senior Tories were quoted in the Times as having sought the help of aforementioned horny albino yeti Boris Johnson. Seeking the help of Boris Johnson, guys, for the election, for the campaign, for your troubled and doomed campaign. Going knocking on Boris Johnson's door. Imagine that. Like, I never really understood how people still run to Boris Johnson as though he's the fucking answer to any of their problems. Like, what problem is he solving for you, really? Like, when he was Prime Minister, right, he didn't deliver anything, did he? Let's just be honest. We could be honest about this now, can't we? Dear listeners, dear viewers, people of the Booge. He didn't deliver anything. Levelling up was just a slogan. It all fell to pieces very, very quickly. He was a terrible Prime Minister. Objectively awful. He lied about Brexit. And that was like, I mean, you know, with all the promises, with all the populist narrative behind it, you know, pushing it. It's going to be like this. It could be amazing. It was like ordering a ribeye steak, right, with a gorgeous red, like a Malbec or something with it. And then instead, what do you get? You got Deliveroo to fucking shit casserole or something, you know? So he was an objectively awful Prime Minister. He lied, he was corrupt, he was booted out. Like, he's still banned from Parliament. Now. He cannot hold a parliamentary pass. He was so bad. And still, even now, people are like, but what if we got him back, though? Maybe he's what we need to fix all of this. Anyway, senior Tories went knocking and begged him to return. They were like, listen, Boris, we are desperate. We could make it worth your while. We could make things a little bit easier for you with that parliamentary parliament. Please, Boris. Please would you consider coming back and doing what you do best? Right. To which Johnson perhaps would have replied, well, sure. Before immediately clocking out and going on 2 holidays again. Thursday. We're only up to Thursday. Thursday saw the betting scandal explode across the front pages. The hate pamphlets of Fleet Street. Tories with privileged knowledge, private information, had been reportedly placing bets on retail gambling sites that they knew the general election date the day before it was publicly announced. So betting with insider information. Hugely illegal. You could go to prison for that, you know. And see, this is what I mean, right? When I say they only play dumb, right? When it comes to technology, when it comes to, you know, political or parliamentary fuck-ups, they only play stupid when it suits them to do so. Like, if you think of all the times, right? Just cast your mind back, people. Think of all the times that they fucked up with technology over the last, like, even just the last 4 years. You know, there was 100,000 Home Office criminal records that just disappeared. Just vanished. Like magic. They were gone. There was documentation about Tory MPs that might have been paedophiles and it just disappeared. Just accidentally got deleted or corrupted off a database, Windows XP system or something. It's a mistake. I slipped on a banana peel and 50 paedophiles went away without charges. It was strange. It was a strange day. The testimony from the Rush report, like... all of these things, all of these gigantic scandals that just... Tories and technology, you put them together, it's like oil and water. Oh, no! Oh, I've messed up again. Silly me. The lost phones, the wholesale deletion of emails and WhatsApps. Right? Just factor all of that in just for a second. But when they want to be efficient, right, with private information and logging into a secure web portal and placing bets, well, then there's no problem whatsoever, is there? They can work any system in the world. Betfair, Paddy Power, wherever. Sky Bet. Oh, yeah, I could get into any of these. I've got accounts in all of them. Then there's no problem whatsoever. There's no lost text messages when they need one for the two-factor authentication. So yes, anyway, what else happened? Just Stop Oil gave Stonehenge a way overdue lick of paint, while Just in Timberlake got arrested for driving under the influence. No judgment here, mate. And finally, this is possibly my favourite story of the week, he said, with a weakest link-esque pause. Favourite story of the week was the former owners of the Telegraph, right, the Barclay brothers, a right-wing paper, who have historically campaigned against financial regulation and greater transparency, right? Well, the former owners, the Barclay brothers, they appear to have taken approximately £270 million out of the Telegraph, and that has possibly been what sent it careering into administration. So now it's up for sale. Now it's with like Deloitte or Ernst & Young or something. So yeah, it yields the question, why did they need 270 million that urgently? Why did they just pull that money out? Wouldn't it have made more sense to sell it for it's worth about 400 million. Maybe 5, depending on who's desperate enough to get their hands on a Fleet Street broadsheet. So why would they take 270 million out that quickly, that urgently and haphazardly, and attract... They must have known that the scrutiny was going to come knocking at some point. So yeah. They have allegedly, or at least reportedly at this stage, we don't know the intricacies, the specifics of it, but it looks as though they might have taken more than the money. Like, I was doing the sums on the alternative paper review the other day. Or maybe it was the midweek podcast. But I was looking at it like, they took 270 out. And when the Telegraph went into the red, it was only like 250 million, right? Which obviously means they took out more than the loss that they then later had to declare. So the Telegraph was in profit when they took that money out. So they are responsible. If these figures are correct, if the FT's reporting is accurate and well sourced, then it appears they have sent their own newspaper into, the realms of bankruptcy and administration. It's pretty wild, man. Why would they do that? Why would they send their own newspaper into Because nice guys finish last, Rish. You see? They're out there in the Bahamas with their 270 million. Where are you? Answering awkward questions on Question Time with strangers calling you shame and stuff. Nice guys finish last. So yes, that was the week that we've all just lived through, guys. Everything's awful. They're all corrupt bastards. 13 days to go until the election. Now fucking drink with me. Anyway. What's going on in the chat, man? What's happening in the chat tonight? Waynemaker's saying Marston Debt Collection were on their case. Marston Debt Collection. So was there an extra added debt then to the Telegraph beyond the money that they took out? And maybe, is it the sort of situation where they're like, well, I may as well take... Like, I remember when I was young and irresponsible in my 20s, and I remember, withdrawing, 250 quid off my credit card before it ticked over into the date of the repayment, because I was like, well, once I'm overdue, then they won't let me take any money out, and I still want to have a weekend. So irresponsible. If I take the extra money out now, then I've still got the money to go partying with, right? I can still order a couple of cheekies. What am I going to do? What, I'm supposed to stay in and not go out? Not get off my nut until 4 a.m? That doesn't make sense. Who else is talking about this? Richard Marston says, let's club together with our clubs, smash it to pieces to the beat of Staying Alive. That sounds unnecessarily violent. Yuri says, we've all been there, Aid. Yeah, man. I mean, I wrap all of that behavior up as the beer years. I like to look at it like, you get a certain margin, you get a certain time budget to be irresponsible. Some people overstay their welcome in that respect, don't they? Some people never grow up. He says, sitting in his fucking shed that's decked out like a 19-year-old's bedroom or some shit. But some people never, I have a job, I've got kids, I've got responsibilities. I don't go out and then draw loads of money out on my credit card. But some people do. Some people never leave that 23-year-old mentality, do they? And you bump into them at Christmas when you're back home in your hometown just to see your friends and family, and you go down the pub for Christmas Eve that you all used to go to, and it's a big reunion. And you've got your job and your kids and everything that's going on. But this is like a nice little holiday for you, is to go into that old pub that you all used to go in. But there's always one person in there for whom it is not a holiday. It's just, they're still in there every night. They've never left it. They're still in there every other night drinking. You just happen to be in there too now. They're like, well, what are you up to now these days, Ed? Oh, well, I work for this tech company in town. I've got 2 kids. Oh, how old are they? Oh, they're, 3 and 7. Yeah, okay. And what are you up to? They just look at themselves like, this? Still? Anyway, let's continue. There is something I would like to talk to you guys about tonight. There's something I'd like to raise. Now, frequent and fervent viewers and listeners will know that not so long ago we had a sort of semi-frequent feature on the pod called the Tap Dancing Tosser Award. Who remembers that? The Tap Dancing Tosser Award. Previous recipients include, there's a couple of Telegraph columnists, that's not going to shock anybody, Johnny Mercer, who was Nadim Zahawi, I think, got one week, and I used to tag the people in it. I'd be like, congrats, by the way, you won this. And it was a lot of fun, but it was like it took a little bit more effort to kind of prep it and, get the photos in place, or like little clips of them doing stupid stuff. And anyway, earlier on today, I was in the shower. I was thinking, I'd like to do an award, but I don't know if I'm going to carry on doing the Tap Dancing Tosser Award. And I thought, what would be the most belligerent, non-news night, non-question time, like a bit punk rock? What would be the most ridiculous award to give to somebody in the journo-political sphere for being like the peak of their, what's the word? Species, if you like. When you reach the peak of your species, like if you're a journalist for a tabloid and you make something up with no sources to fuel your ideology and your bias, and then it gets found out, and then you double down, like it's that sort of thing. Every single junction, you just get worse and worse and double down and get worse and worse, right? And I thought, who would be the most, like the pinnacle of the callous, lying, self-serving Tory? Who could win the first ever King Cunt Award? Who would be King Cunt, guys, in the Tory realm? Can I get some suggestions? Who in the chat thinks that they have an idea of who should win the King Cunt Award for Tories? There goes the monetization. I mean, there's a few people, right? There's a few nominees you could throw about. I suppose Michael Gove would leap to mind with all the gaiety and, no pun intended, with all the gaiety and passion of a harem of Morris dancers. Farage, yes. Alex French has just suggested Farage. Yeah, he's certainly up there, isn't he? Neil Moore's backing him up. Farage, without a doubt. Then David Cameron. Yes, okay. Yep, self-serving, very privileged. I see that. Tonight, I want to bequeath and bestow and gift the first ever King Cunt Award to my chosen recipient. It's an individual who is mesmerizing to me. Not because I admire him. Not because I think he's supremely talented. I don't think that at all. But because he appears to embody, I don't know, like you know how, like sometimes you see somebody who just has the skill set perfect for the role that they've cut out for themselves in society. Well, it's like he's that. He's like the chalk outline of his own criminal activity or something. So this guy is King Cunt, right? He's just in a league of his own. He ticks all the boxes, and I can't believe, actually, that we haven't discussed him. He's literally never come up on the podcast before. Are you guys familiar with Jeffrey Archer? Who's familiar with Jeffrey Archer? Lord Archer. Former Conservative MP. He was a deputy chairman. Then he was a published author. Very, very famous published author. Internationally so. Do you guys know much about him? Because, maybe you've heard the name, but you're not really sure where from. Or maybe you are familiar with who he is, but you're not quite sure why he's, King Cunt. Why is he that sort of pinnacle kind of figure? Well, kick back, dear listeners and viewers, as I enlighten you with darkness. Because Lord Archer, right, Jeffrey Archer is, in my opinion, right, he comes off as shady, corrupt, detached. Even his family history. I was reading about it today. Even his family history is like, wow. So let's go through it, shall we? Enough of the context. He's privately educated, obviously. He's Oxbridge educated, obviously. His Wikipedia suggests that he lied about the specific private school that he went to. Like, he won a scholarship to this place called Wellington School in Somerset. But then it was reported later that he was passing it off as though he went to Wellington College in Berkshire, which is a way more famous or infamous or prestigious private school. Which is weird, isn't it? Like, why would you lie about that? Like, you went to private school, you went to an independent, just fucking... Yeah, I went to Wellington. Oh, okay. Wellington College. Yeah. Why? So there's some dishonesty there, right? But it gets so much worse. He, again, according to Wikipedia, he would suggest that his dad was a military hero, right? It's very topical for this week because a constable has just been fired, hasn't he? It was in the news earlier today for wearing medals of the Falklands, but actually it turned out he would have only been like 14 or 15 when the Falklands was happening. Now it's like, why were you wearing... Why would you bother? Oh, I don't want to talk about it. Like, what? What's the point? What do you get out of this? So he would suggest that his dad was a military hero, even though his dad was found to have just impersonated a military hero, a real guy who happened to have the same name as him, right? Which is, I mean, like his father took the identity of a dead war hero, right? And then, by all accounts, his son then sort of sparingly tried to pass his father off as, I mean, you can't, like, maybe his dad said to him, yeah, I'm totally a war hero. And he was like, oh, I love my dad. Yeah, he's totally a war hero. Maybe it's something like that. But still a bit weird. Lying about your school, lying about your dad lies and pretends that he's a real war hero who happens to be dead but has the same... Like, it's not the best opening chapter to a life story, is it? Anyway, his father was, again, according to Wikipedia, his father was reportedly a bigamist, a fraudster, and anyway, apparently it all caught up with him when he was charged at the Old Bailey. So pretty serious stuff, I guess. And he got bail. They gave him bail, and he just ran away to the United States of America under another name. So he's born, I think his name is William Archer, the dad. He pretends to be someone else called William Archer, who's a dead soldier, dead war hero. Then a load of frauds and stuff catches up. Then he's like, by the way, I'm not either of the William Archers. I'm William Smith. And runs away. And he has a colourful life over there. But let's stay on Jerry, shall we? So that's the scene. We're setting the scene here, guys. He lies about the school that he goes to. He lies about his father, who is also a liar. He goes on to Oxford. But then there's claims, like while he's at Oxford, there's claims that he lied about the qualifications that he used to get into Oxford. So, like, you know, it's even like, some people have a rough start in life and then they study and they get to Oxford or whatever. This is not that. That's like, even the Oxford thing is troubling. Anyway, after Oxford, he graduates from Oxford and he goes to work for the United Nations Association. And while he's there, he's also trying to become an MP, right? So he gets in with the Conservatives, conservative social groups, makes some friends, and he's trying to become an MP. He's going to dinners, shaking hands, trying to charm them. He wants to be a Tory MP. But again, he gets himself into a load of bother with allegedly fraudulent expense claims. Right? Like, am I giving you an idea of what, like, how dodgy this guy is? Like, if he spoke like, oh, you all right, lad, say you, like, if he was a bit, you know, salt of the earth, you would call him a career criminal, even by that point, wouldn't you? You'd be like, oh, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree with that one. Came from a troubled family. His father ran away to America. Look what he's up to now. Dodgy expense claims, lying to get into these universities, you know? But because he's well-spoken, because he went to Oxford, I don't know, just doesn't seem to cause him any issues. So there's these fraudulent expense claims, right? And you might think that that is just an internal matter, right? Like if I put an expense claim in and my boss was like, it says here that you ate 2 dinners, but I thought that was just you there. Oh, no, like it would be handled internally, right? But apparently his situation, his expense claim situation got so serious that people start writing, right, from the United Nations Association. They start writing from there to his contacts in the Conservative Party, you know, whips and all like internal machinations of the Conservative Party. They start warning them not to give this guy a candidacy. He's not suitable. Please don't put him into the Conservative Party. He's not fit. No. There's unanswered questions over here. But, you know, the Tories being the Tories, they actually sort of seem to take this as a positive, you know? Shows ingenuity, doesn't it? You know? All of us have got to have a little bit of dirt on us, otherwise, you know, you wouldn't trust each other, would you? They take it as a positive, I guess. They don't take any notice of these warnings. And instead, they reward him with a constituency, Louth, to fight for. And that is in 1969, right? Then, in 1974, he goes bankrupt, right? Off the back of the then equivalent of, like, let's say, Enron or the Bernie Madoff scandal, like that sort of thing. I can't remember. I think it Aqua Blast, I think it was called. One of these big, like, investment opportunities, and it just fell to pieces. So he goes bankrupt off the back of that. And later that year, he's accused of stealing 3 suits from a department store, right? Which, again, I'm not judging. You know, if you fall on hard times, if you do something a bit silly to get, you know, to survive, you know, maybe he had to lie to get into Oxford. It's his shot at a better life. You know, he looked back at his dad who absconded off to the US, and he's like, if I want to make something of myself, I don't want to do this, but maybe this is what I have to do, you know? Then he goes bankrupt. Maybe he's like, well, to have the meetings that I need to have to shake the hands and continue to be taken seriously and maybe get back into the Conservative Party, etc., etc. Maybe I just need nice suits. So sorry, Debenhams or, you know, Savile Row or whatever. I'm going to have to take this shit. Like, maybe it's something like that. But still, if I told you all of these things about anybody else and they weren't a Conservative MP, you would be like, yeah, that guy sounds dodgy as fuck. He's a career criminal aide. Why are you hanging out with him? Like, wouldn't it? Anyway, then he becomes the well-known author that many know him as today. He wrote a very well-known novel called Cain and Abel. He wrote a bunch of other stuff, obviously, but he's accused of plagiarizing a story along the way. He says he was inspired by it, but the lady who wrote the original story is like, oh, what the fuck are you talking about? Inspired by? You stole my fucking story, Jeff! So you got a guy with an interesting story, right? Interesting backstory. But oh boy, does it get worse. Should we go deeper? Should we get into it? People in the live chat? People of the Booge? So he returns to politics, right? Under Margaret Thatcher as deputy chairman. And that is in 1986. But he makes enemies within his own party with Ted Heath and then the actual party chairman, Norman Tebbit, right? Effectively his boss, I guess. And this might sound familiar. One of the reasons that Tebbit was really upset with him was because he went on the radio, I think it was, or maybe it was the TV, and he gave this interview. Right, this might sound familiar to you. This is like proper, peak Tory kind of, like reeling out the hits, basically. He goes on a national broadcast, and he suggests that the problem with a lot of young people is they just don't want to work, right? No, nobody wants to bloody work anymore. You're just too bloody lazy. So that doesn't go down well with other members of his own party. You know, they think he's dragging them into, you know, unfortunate rhetoric, blamey, cold-hearted, callous kind of Tory stereotypes. Anyway, then in 1987, the News of the World published a story suggesting he's paid money to a sex worker. Okay? But then the Daily Star take it one step further, and they accuse him directly of paying for sex. So there's a bit of a difference there, right? One accuses him of just giving money to a woman who happens to be in that line of work. The other say, no, he paid to fuck her. That's what happened. You got deputy chairman, and he's paying that lady of the night over there so he can have sex in her. That's the arrangement. And you should all know about it because he's a public servant. He's supposed to be beyond reproach, high standards and all that. So he tries to present giving this money to this woman. He tries to present it as an act of philanthropy, which I love. As a defense, love it. It reminds me of, do you guys remember, it must be about 10 years ago now, when Eddie Murphy was caught by I think it was the National Enquirer. He's driving down the Sunset Strip in Hollywood, and he was pulled over by the cops with a prostitute in his car or something, and his not get out of jail free card, but excuse or whatever that he gave to the press or the cops or something was like, I just like to help them out. I just like, you know, she was just stood there and she looked like she needed a lift, and I just like to help people out that are less fortunate than me. And it's like, and he's got away with it, hasn't he? Because he's still making movies. He's still talking about, you know, stand up and everything. And again, no judgment. Whatever you're into is whatever you're into, as long as you're not hurting anyone. But for him to sell that excuse, I just like to help people. When you've probably driven past 30 homeless guys between your house and this woman. Yeah, she looked like she needed a hand, so I just let her get in for a bit. Gave her $400, and yeah, I'm just nice like that. You know, I'm just a nice guy. Nice guys don't have to finish last. Sometimes you help somebody, and the reward is the feeling that you've helped somebody. Nice guys, yeah. Oh, Eddie. I always thought Eddie Murphy, he could make a hell of a comeback with stand-up. Like, he's got so many stories. If he did a stand-ups at like an hour and 10 minutes, and it was full of stories of like when he married a Spice Girl, or he had a kid with a Spice, like Mel B, and the time that he got pulled over by the cops with the prostitute, and like there's so much stuff, or like, you know, being known by the kids as like Shrek's donkey, rather than, you know, you think you're really cool, but actually all the kids now just know you as a fucking donkey. There's so much stuff he could build material around. Breaks my heart he doesn't do stand-up. But yeah, anyway, back to Jeffrey Archer. Let's not get too sidetracked here. I have to say, I love the idea, right, that this is an act of philanthropy from Archer to this lady of the night, right? Because here is a guy who cannot bring himself to empathize with the 3 million unemployed and desperate people that they had at the time. Just broke, living off the dole, you know, kicked out of mining, just sat earning fucking nothing, worried about when their next paycheck or what's going to happen to their career. And he's like, oh, you're all too bloody lazy. Nobody wants to work anymore. Completely devoid of empathy. But, you know, when it comes to a sex worker, that is seemingly what it takes for that empathy to kick. I just gotta help this one. I do. Really tugged on my heartstrings. So she did. So, I mean, maybe it's true. Maybe it's possible that he, you know, outwardly to the rest of the country, he was a bit of a cunt, you know? You know, he didn't care. He did come off as callous. He was self-serving, devoid of empathy. But then in private, you know, it's like, that's just the show. In private, he's just a really sweet guy, you know? It's like a sort of inverted dark horse. Like, you know, when you meet somebody and they seem nice, like outwardly, and then actually behind, you know, like one of their friends will come over and go, like, oh, don't trust that guy. Oh, he's a dark horse, that one, you know? It's like the opposite of that. Like, Archer was pretending to be a massive C unit. But then behind closed doors, nothing but love and compassion. Just caring about these vulnerable women. Like, I always thought it'd be funny, it'd be a funny sketch for comic relief if James O'Brien was like, you know, he's in the LBC studio and he's taking a call from somebody who's having a real rough time of it, and he's, you know, he's got the mic and he's got his headphones on. He's just like, you know, empathizing, sympathizing with them. He's listening to them, letting them speak, responding. He's like, well, yes, I mean, that sounds absolutely grueling, and of course there's no way that I could really understand or know what it is that you're going through, but thank you so much for calling in, Sandra, and we wish you the best. Call in again, let us know how you're getting on. You know, like that's his outward thing. But then behind closed doors, once the mic faders come down and the cameras are down, he's like backstage with the producer, throwing his coffee at the researcher. I said 2 sugars. Now clean it up. I think that'd make a good sketch for James O'Brien. Comic relief. Wayne knows him, actually. Maybe Wayne could put in a good word for me. Just tell him I'm the opposite of a dark horse as well. Tell him I'm outwardly a massive prick, but actually in person, once the cameras and the mic faders are down, I'm a sweetheart, Wayne. Anyway, back to Archer. Try and stay on point just once, Aid. So he sues the papers, right? They say you paid this woman for sex. He sues the papers, the Star, the News of the World. He wins that case. for £500,000, right? Bear in mind, this is in the 80s, so that's worth a bit more than it is now. And Rupert Murdoch settles, and the Star's editor loses his job. Never really recovers from it. And then there's allegations of insider trading as well on top of that, right? Because his wife at that point is a director at Anglia Television, and he gets wind of a takeover, right? So he makes £77,000 profit by buying shares before the takeover is publicly announced. These Tories can't help themselves, can they? The only reason it's not more is because there was no such thing as Betfair then. That's it. That is the only reason. So there's insider trading seemingly going on. You know, there's ladies of the night. He wins that case, but then later it's found, you know, it's suggested heavily that he's committed perjury in his defense in order to get that money out of the News of the World, right? And with the insider trading thing, he's not actually prosecuted for it because the police say there's insufficient evidence. They just can't meet that threshold with the Crown Prosecution Service. But he goes on the media rounds saying he's been fully exonerated. So now we're up to the year 2000, right? We're up to the millennium. And by this point, right, more and more evidence is coming out, and more testimony about the sex worker case, right? People are starting to talk. She is starting to talk. And the girl in question, the woman in question, is a lady called Monica Coughlin. And she is about to take the stand and tell everyone in this perjury trial what their relationship with each other was, right? Was Archer a caring, empathetic type who was just financially helping her out of the goodness of my heart? Or did he pay her for sex and then lie about it and sue two newspapers for daring to suggest that it had happened in the High Court for £500,000? So which is it? And she's about to appear at the High Court and testify against him, and then she dies in a fucking road accident just before she's about to give evidence. Like, how is that not the shadiest thing you've ever heard of? And then in 2004, oh my God, it continues. It continues, guys. Then in 2004, Equatorial New Guinea, right, there's a coup attempt over there. And their government accuse Jeffrey Archer, somewhat bizarrely, of financing it. But remember, by this point, Jeffrey Archer is fucking bucked out, man. He wrote Cain and Abel. He's wrote I think 40 novels now to date. They're all like international bestsellers. He's got fucking gangloads of cash. So it is possible that he has financed a coup attempt for whatever reason. So their government, Equatorial New Guinea, accuse him of financing a attempted coup. He denies it. And he says that the guy that they have apprehended, that they've jailed for like national security, like for trying to overthrow the government, Archer says that guy has said that he had nothing to do with it. So you should just, well, you know, he's already said it's got nothing to do with me, so that's it. Game over. Curtain down. Except then later, when that guy is released on humanitarian grounds by Equatorial New Guinea, he says, I don't know why Lord Archer said that, because actually in my new book, of course he has a fucking book out, right? He says, in my new book, I will reveal that a member of the House of Lords, remember, Jeffrey Archer is in the Lords, a member of the House of Lords who is internationally famous had financially backed it, and I have the banking records to prove it. That's what he says. So, where are we at now, guys? Privately educated, Oxbridge, what else do we have? Poor bashing, you know, nobody wants to work anymore, expense fiddling, perjury committing. He went to jail for that, by the way. Coup financing, son of a fraudster, Then we get to the London bombings, right? Remember those? 7/7? Guess who was in town when that shit kicked off? Jeffrey Archer. Now, I'm not suggesting that that was his fault, okay? I'm not suggesting he financed it. I don't think that happened. I'm not even suggesting that he had anything to do with it, right? I'm just relatively sure he just lives and works in London. I think that's his connection to it. So that's the... Okay, it's not that crazy, but just bank it for a second, okay? Then we get to the 1986 assassination of the Swedish Prime Minister, a guy called Olof Palme. Jeffrey Archer just happens to be in Sweden, in that city, at the exact time that the Swedish Prime Minister gets assassinated, right? So 7/7 bombings, Swedish PM assassination, he's at both of them. He was also in Brighton for the Brighton bombings. Just going to throw that in there too. That's 3 terrorist events he's been in the city of question for. Then, spool forward to 1997, I shit you not, Princess Diana, Dodi Fayed, staying at the Ritz in Paris. Henri Paul, getting fucking shit-hammered, like he's Justin Timberlake at the Ritz Hotel. Again, no judgment, Henri. We all like a tipple. But take a wild fucking guess. Who was also staying at the Ritz in Paris that night? Jeffrey fucking Archer, guys! Like, I'm not saying that Jeffrey Archer played a role, definitely played a role in the murder of Princess Diana and Dodi Fayed and Henri Paul. Before you get it twisted. I'm not saying that. Absolutely. Obviously, I'm not. That would be hugely libelous. This internationally famous author getting involved in, MI6 assassination plots or something. He'd be the most recognizable secret agent ever, wouldn't he? Like, he'd walk into the Ritz under a pseudonym. Right? What's my name again? What's it like? It'd be like father, like son. Just like pick a picture of a fallen French war hero off the wall of the Ritz. What's this guy's name? Pierre Boucher. That's my fucking name. Yeah, I'll check in under that. Pierre Boucher. Double room, please. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying he had anything to do with the murder of a Swedish Prime Minister, the London 7/7 bombings, Princess Diana and Dodi Fayed, the coup in Equatorial New Guinea. I'm just saying it's fucking interesting. Isn't it? Like, what are the odds? What are the sheer fucking odds of one man who is heavily connected to the establishment, who has that moral character? What are the odds of that one guy being present at all of these geopolitical events? It's got to be something like 5 million to 1. So I'm not saying that he's definitely involved in some, weird establishment murder plots. I'm just saying that if those things did happen, and if he were involved in them in some capacity, and if his involvement in them made him some money or bettered his situation somehow, then maybe it's for the best for him, because nice guys finish last, guys. Guys, that's it for this one. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'm really enjoying doing these solo shows at the moment. It's good fun. I'm loving the live chat. Hey, what's up to Mojo again? What's up to Richard? What's up to Jeannie? Jeannie Bottle. That's a good name, Jeannie. I mean, it's spelled like Genie, but it's, but Jeannie Bottle. I like it. I'm here for the wordplay. What's up to Yuri? What's up to Alex and Diz? Guys, I'm going to jump off now. I'm going to talk to my Patreons in the Discord. If you are not a member of the Patreon yet, or the YouTube community, they're like sort of, sister platforms, right? They've got the same tiers and everything, but like if you're on the Patreon or YouTube's community thing, you get episodes of the podcast 2 days before everybody else. So after this stream finishes, it's going to go private and it will go out to YouTube community and it will go on to Patreon. You get invites to the in-person meetups. The next one is on the Saturday after the election. That's Saturday the 6th of July in East London. There's a gig, like it's not really a gig. It's like a election night party. Me, Super Tansky, Marina Perkis, Gemma Forte, Danny fucking Price, and more. We're going to be in Vauxhall that night. You can still probably grab tickets if you're quick, but I would encourage you to grab them super quick because there's a lot of people with big followings that are, funneling this like promo stuff out. I think it's going to be a blast. Be good. It'll be a good time. And Mojo Sabian says can't stop the signal. Aid. I don't know what that means. What the fuck does that mean? It's going to be a weird note to leave on now. Can't stop the signal. Maybe is that? Should we just make that a new catchphrase, Mojo? Should we do it? Because then it makes it less weird, right? So if we can find some way to style this out now, be like, look, I'm going to be here midweek next week for the midweek solo show. That's going to go out to Patreons first. Then I'll be back next Friday night, every Friday night, 7:30 for the Friday night live show in which you guys drop into the chat. Nothing can stop it. We're here every week. You can't stop the signal. I'm out this motherfucker.